Hello and welcome to the League of DizzlPete LEC Week 5 recap, where we will once again go through all of the teams, the standings, the games that were played and the opinions of what happens next. On a side note, I would like to apologize for the audio quality of this video as my microphone broke down and I have to use my backup one until I get that fixed. I will do my best to have that sorted out before next week's videos, but for now this is what we'll have to do. So now, without any further ado, let's get into the standings and the matches from the week behind us. At number 10, same as last time, we have Team Vitality, who have managed to get a win this week over Fanatic and still lost their second game of the week against Rogue. All in all, I still consider this to be a good week for Vitality, as I have not been expecting them to pick up any wins this week. They still had a decent performance in the game against Rogue, but they simply played too bad of an early game to actually make any difference. Their main issue still appears to be that they do not have a set mentality or a way they want to play. My honest opinion is that they should be going through either playing through Crownshot or Shigenda on carry top laners, as that is what has proved efficient in the game against Fnatic. In the game against Rogue, they have simply not done enough. They put those players on not too big of carries, and what happened is that by the time the first blood happened, which was the latest first blood in the LEC this season, around 13 minutes, they had already basically lost the game at that point. They were doing nothing on the map, and it really showed. They tried to pull it back later, but it was simply not enough. I am a big fan of Milica and how he usually plays, but it simply has not been his split so far. So my advice would be to stay away from him playing Azir or Corki and do put him on more supportive champs like the Seraphine we've seen in the game against Fnatic. They are up against Astralis and Mad Lions next week, which makes it another good chance for them to put on another 1-1 week, but Astralis has also improved recently, so that I expect to be actually a really interesting matchup, and we will see how that one goes. Still, as things stands, I do not give them too much chance against Mad Lions, as that team seems to have found their way and found their style, and they're definitely on the upward spiral. At number 9 in the rankings, we have another 3-8 team that managed to go 1-1 this week. It's Astralis. Astralis put in a good performance against G2 in their first game of the week as well, but they still fell short thanks to some brilliant play by Caps on his Rise pick. But they managed to pull an upset and win their second game of the week against Excel, in a game in which they proved that Maggie Felix is able to play more than just Corki. He put in a great Syndra performance, and actually putting him outside of his comfort zone a bit is a step in a good direction, as I do believe he has a lot to show and a lot to prove in the league, and his Syndra performance this game goes to prove as much. It is fair to say that Astralis are still in the bottom tier of the teams in the LEC so far, but they face off against Fnatic and Rogue next week, which should be pretty hard for them, especially considering how good Rogue is playing, but Fnatic is also coming off a 0-2 week right now, and they really need that win against Astralis, so it should be interesting to see how that one plays out, whether Astralis can actually cause another upset or will Fnatic get their way back on winning ways. In short, it appears that bringing in Maggie Felix instead of Nukeduck has been a good choice for the team, and this team will keep growing from week to week. Unfortunately for them, it's pretty obvious by now that playoffs is not going to be a realistic option for this split, but perhaps with a bit of revamp next split it could be more of an option. At rank 8, and another team with a 3-8 score, is Team Misfits. They have another 0-2 week behind them with losses to Rogue and SK in their games. I am not as surprised with the loss against Rogue as I am with the loss against SK, as that was a game they had in the bag pretty much and that they should have won. Kobe had a good Tristana game, but they fell short at a few of the team fights and eventually finished losing the game and putting SK into a pretty good playoff spot at the moment. For Team Misfits, they are up against Schalke and Excel next week, both two struggling teams that also went 0-2 this week, so it will be interesting to see how that plays out, as Misfits also desperately need the wins to get themselves back on track and get some confidence back, even though same as Astralis, they are most likely not reaching playoffs for this split. And at number 7 in the rankings, after another 0-2 week, we have Schalke 04. These two defeats against SK and G2 this week currently put them outside of playoffs, which could be a bit worrying for them, as I'm sure this team has had higher expectations going into the season. In both of their games this week, they were not doing that bad, and they were pretty close games, but individual mistakes and uncoordinated team play has led to them, as I said, having another 0-2 week. In particular, I think a big part of the problem is Neon has been playing quite under his own standards in the last few games, especially showcased in the moments where he tries to be the hero and ults in or jumps forward, depending on who he's playing, and ends up just dying or putting himself or the team in a bad situation. On the other side, Limit has also been putting a bit of under par performances due to the fact that his rel is being taken away more often and he has not adapted too well to the new champs he's supposed to play. Broken Blade is playing pretty well, and in the G2 game he was what kept Schalke alive for most of the game, but still he has also had his mistakes and his over-aggressive moments trying to be the hero. And now, after a 4-game win streak and the nickname Kingslayers, Schalke have done the opposite and are on a 4-game lose streak, and next week they face off against Rogue and Misfits. Definitely not an easy matchup going up against Rogue, but on the other hand, Misfits should be an easier task for them. Yet, with the hopes they have and their aspirations, they would probably need a 2-0 week to gain some confidence back and set a footing in the playoff race once again. And that a shared number 6 in the rankings with Schalke 04 with a 5 and 6 scores is Excel Gaming, a team that also managed to go 0-2 this week, losing to Mad Lions and Astralis. Losing to Mad Lions is mostly understandable, but it's definitely a mistake on their side to lose to Astralis in a season that seems that could be the first one in the organization's history where they can make playoffs. Now they have endangered that position, especially since the fact that some of their other competitors, such as SK Gaming, have went 2-0 this week. Next week they face off against Misfits and their direct playoff contenders SK Gaming, but the way they have played this week, I do not think they are currently in better form than either two of those teams. So it will be interesting to see how well they pick themselves up from these defeats and whether they can actually go 2-0 next week and improve their place in the standings. At number 5 in the rankings we have SK Gaming with a score of 6-5 after they went 0-2 this week, winning over Schalke and Misfits Gaming. Both of these games were super close and SK was actually behind in both of them for a good part of the time, so good play to them for actually managing to come back 2 days in a row and get the much needed W's. Especially in the Misfits game where a standout performance by Genex is what actually really saved the day and made sure SK Gaming is safe in a playoff spot right now in the standings. Inks is still playing very well and Jezu in my opinion has been playing better and better. And I think the main issue here is still being that Blue is still pretty much running it down at some point of every game, but luckily for Excel it is not yet costing them too much in the standings. They have a very interesting week coming up where they face off against Mad Lions and Excel. They are direct competitors and the outcome of those two games will shape the future of this split for them in a lot of ways. I do believe with the way they are currently playing that could be a 2-0 week for them and that could be what they need to seal a spot in the playoffs for this split. And at rank 4 with a 6-5 score we also have Team Fanatic who managed to go 0-2 this week just after I thought they have finally found their form and got their footing going 2-0 the week before this one. This week they managed to lose to both Vitality and Mad Lions in games that were definitely not lean, they were mostly scrappy and moments of over-aggression on the Fnatic side is what ultimately cost them the wins here and that cost them their position in the rankings since they were in a much better position prior to this week and I expected them to solidify that and instead now they are on the middle of the table with a lot of the other teams that are still battling for playoffs. They face off against Astralis and G2 next week in what honestly is an incredibly hard week to predict for them as I can easily see them, just like Schalke last time, going either 2-0 or 0-2 this week, while still keeping it at 1-1 being the most realistic option since I do believe they still have what it takes to take down Astralis, but not to take down G2 with the way they are currently playing or have been this last week. At rank 3 in the standings with a 7-4 score so far, we have Team Mad Lions that are coming off a 2-0 week in which they beat Excel Gaming and Fnatic, both playoffs contenders that they are directly fighting with, so fair to say they have a great week and a reason to be happy behind them. They seem to have found their footing, and to give credit where credit is due, Elioya seems to be playing a lot better than the last time I was commenting about him, so I'm also glad to see him progress and fit in better with the team. They have an interesting week ahead of them as they are supposed to play SK Gaming and Team Vitality in what should be another 2-0 week for them, but I would not count out the possibility of either of those teams actually creating an upset and taking down Mad Lions. Yet on the other side, if Mad Lions actually manage to win both of those games in a clean fashion, it would definitely take them up the ladder and make them one of the top teams in the league alongside G2 and Rogue, who are currently uncontested. Same as last week, at rank 2 we have Team Rogue, who have won both of their games this week against Misfits and Vitality, and are now at a 9-2 score. Not really many surprises here, as they were playing against bottom tier teams and they were pretty clean wins, aside from a few hiccups in the Vitality game, but nothing too bad or too scary, as they did manage to get the win in the end and finish the week on a strong note. Regarding player performances, the only part worth mentioning is that I do believe that Trimby is now fitting in better with the team, and his performance has also been on the rise, which is definitely solidifying Rogue as a top contender for the title this season, if anybody is actually able to stop G2 from just winning it all. They face off against Schalke and Astralis next week, and anything but another 2-0 week for them would be considered a surprise, but then again, Schalke do need the wins a lot, and I'm expecting that one to be a really good game. And also, with no change to the standings from last week, at rank 1 we have G2 Esports with another 2-0 week in which they won against Astralis and Schalke 04. To be fair, the wins did come a bit harder than expected and the games were not too clean, but there's really nothing too much to worry about for the G2 squad, as they also were in control for most of the games as well. They managed to get payback to Schalke, who managed to beat them this season, and they will have the same opportunity next week to beat another one of the teams that beat them, that is Fanatic, as they face off against Vitality and Fanatic in the games they play next week, and I'm sure they will be eager to get another 2-0 week behind them and make sure they reach playoffs from the number 1 spot. And at the end, let's take another look at the table and the standings after week 5 has been completed. No changes in the top, as at number 1 and 2 we have G2 and Rogue with the scores of 9 and 2. At number 3 we now have Mad Lions with a score of 7 and 4. At number 4 we have Fnatic with 6 and 5, SK Gaming at 5 with also 6 and 5. At rank 6 and 7 with the scores of 5 and 6 we have Excel and Schalke. At 8 and 9, both and 3 and 8 we have Misfits and so to say up and rising Astralis, and at number 10 we still have Team Vitality with a 2 and 9 scoreline. Thank you all for watching, and I hope I will see you next week again for the next video.